I have recently added something to my Vim mode, which is a mode that I created that does a bunch of things, like let me move my mouse using my keyboard, as well as move it to some specific sections of the screen, also turns HJKL into arrow keys, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you're interested in that, you should watch the video. So, what did I add today? Or rather, yesterday. So, if you watch my videos, you probably noticed that all of my windows are always maximized. That's not because I'm thinking of you, that's because that's always the case. All of my windows are always maximized, and I never really understood the appeal of having multiple windows at one screen, especially with my ability to switch between windows very easily. I have the same thing for Discord, Spotify, Telegram, my browser, any other app, and any Explorer app. So I don't really need it. However, I decided to create a window manager. So a thing that can move windows and resize windows. So how does it work? First of all, we have to make our window not maximized, and then we can start. I could make logic to make that automatic, I just don't care. So first we go into Vim mode and then into window manager mode. And now the keys that used to be arrow keys and mouse keys do something different. So if I use HJKL, that moves the window. So them being pressed by themselves is just a medium move. Shift plus those are more granular moves, and if I hold down Control, it moves like a lot. However, that's not the only way to move a window, because you can also use numbers to move your window. So up to 0. So it goes up to here because you probably won't need it even farther. If we go back to normal Vim mode, numbers also move your mouse. However, if you do 0, it's that like close to the right side of the screen. I didn't do that for Windows because it doesn't really make sense to go any more right than that. And there is absolutely a reason to start at the start of the screen, so on the left side. So by pressing 0, you go to the absolute right, kinda, and by pressing 1, you go to the top left corner. Then you can use Shift plus numbers to do the same thing, but starting at the half of the screen, and then Control to basically go to the bottom. So if we try to resize VS Code now to be even thinner, we won't be able to, and that's VS Code. Other windows are probably more or less the same, so it makes sense to have this place as the lowest point that you might need. However, it will vary depending on many different factors. Maybe it's just a screen DPI kind of thing, and you could calculate it easily. But I personally just hard-coded it, so you would have to figure out where that place starts for you and change it for you. Okay, now let's go to the middle and actually try doing some stuff with the window. Let's go to the top actually. So you can also resize a window. S makes it smaller, G makes it bigger, F makes it taller, D makes it what's the opposite of taller? Shorter, of course. But we had something with numbers to move windows very fast. So of course I also have the same thing to resize windows very fast. If we press A, that will... If we press A, that makes the height of the window half of your height. So half of the height of your screen. If you do Q, it's now the full height of your screen. Then if you press W, it's half the width of your screen. And E is full width of your screen. So if I do AW, then it becomes this little window, like AE, and it becomes the half at the top. And then if you remember, you can press Shift 1 to move it here. So that's very nice. Or maybe I want to do the opposite and make it on the left. Or then I can just press 7, I think. Yeah, just 7, and it moves here. So pretty much all I ever would want out of this, I can do. Let's actually try something I've never tried. So this type of window, which is a fourth of your screen, and then let's move it to here. Holy shit, that just works. And I guess, yeah, I've actually never tried this. I didn't even come to me that I could, but turns out my idea works this well. So why not the Windows default like snapping feature? Because for the most part, I have to use the mouse for it. Sure, you can press Windows plus arrows and that does something. Like, can you understand what's happening here? I can't. Like, here I am pressing right multiple times and just moves. That's not exactly what I wanted. So imagine it's on the right side and I have some muscle memory to always press right to make sure that it's right. And then it jumps to the left. Like, that makes no sense to me. Which is why I don't use like Windows default stuff and decided to make my own. And then I have two hotkeys to make it easier to maximize and minimize a window. So let's actually go and look at the code. We go to Vim mode, which I'm going to leave a link to. I'll probably pause. So my project is fucking humongous. If we look at the amount of files that I have, 146. Shit is crazy. So basically, don't expect that it's going to be particularly easy to just take this and use this unless you take literally everything, in which case it should work. But basically, I'm trying to share the idea of how I did this, so you can recreate it in the way that you might find nicer to use. I have a lot of like habits and things that I use that I like, but I understand some people would be like, ew, that's such a wrong hotkey to use, for example. So what do we start with? We go to environment, which is just my class that holds all my global variables, because I hate using actual global variables. They're annoying as fuck, but using a class instead is pretty nice. So here I actually store Vim mode. Oh, come on. Vim mode, which tells me if I'm in Vim mode or not. And this little thing that you see at the bottom is actually a state bulb, which I made a video on. So I make it so every time that I set Vim mode to true, it makes that state bulb, and every time it's false, it makes it not true. Then you can see that we have window manager mode. Well, that's exactly this green, I think, square, which is also a state bulb. Here I have the management of the window manager mode. And as you might have seen, if I destroy or disable Vim mode, it also automatically disables window manager mode. So essentially it's like a double modal system. First I'm in Vim mode, then I can be in another mode inside of Vim mode. I have so many modes, you have no idea. So many modes, key chords, fucking combinations, like a sequence of 6 different hotkeys with different modifiers to do something. I'm crazy. And then when you disable Vim mode, well, as you can see, it also disables window manager mode. Great. So we use that, and my hotkey is Alt space because first of all, I hate it that it even does anything by default, and it's very annoying. If you try to press Alt space, it makes this window, which can be useful, I guess, if you only have your keyboard and aren't a AutoHotkey user or a Linux user, I guess. You guys over there actually have like window managers that you can straight up just use. On Windows, though, they either don't really exist, or they're bad, or they're not popular. So I just made my own, and I honestly love it. So you would use Alt space if that's the case, and for some reason you still want to do something with Windows. But thankfully, I have AutoHotkey. And Alt space seems like a great hotkey to use for enabling Vim mode, especially considering how often I actually make use of it. So Vim mode makes HJKL the arrow keys. I've told this. And the amount of times, like I'm on Discord, for example, and I need to go between words, I am so annoyed at actually using the physical arrow keys. They're so like far away, and then also having to use home, end, and all that. Amazing keys, amazing ideas behind them. I just don't like to reach for them, which is why I use Vim in the first place. Well, that's not the only reason, but like it's a good part of it, honestly. Like it takes some time if you add it up. And in Vim mode, I have the arrow keys, the home, and page up, page down, scroll actually, which is something that I use very often. Scroll right and left, which you don't even have by default. Make your volume different. What else do I have? Oh, clicking. Basically, if you watch the video on Vim mode, you know what it has. It might have changed since then, but nevertheless. So basically, here it is, hot if Vim mode, then we have all of those hotkeys. And then the backtick is the one that turns on window manager mode and actually toggles it. Like I can go back to Vim mode if I need to. I just usually don't, but I have that ability. But if window manager mode, then all of these hotkeys until the next hotf, which I just showed you, these are going to be active. So that's how you create a double moded, like two modes that use the same hotkey. So HJKL are already used by the next hotf, as you can see. Well, here you can't, but you will be. Here it is. So they're already used, but since they are at the bottom hotf, and there is a hotf above it, that means that this hotf is more important. If this is active, the hotkeys of that will be active first, and the second hotf's hotkeys second. So that's how multiple modality works. It's kind of obvious, but not entirely. When you first do this kind of thing, you might not realize that that is how it works. But yeah, here you go. So here I have all the hotkeys, as I explained in the start of the video. So yeah, I'm not gonna go over every hotkey, but I am going to go over Window Manager, which is another file that I'm going to leave a link to in the description. So why is Window Manager a class? Because I like abstractions. Having to use WinMove, like look at all of this. I'm sure that you would figure out what all of these WinMoves do, but isn't it easier to just look at set half width, and as soon as you understand my wording, then you can be like, oh, that's what it does, and it's like the end of the day, rather than having to read this WinMove and understand what it actually does. This is imperative code, and this is declarative code. And by the way, the difference between that, I think I've explained that in the past, but not in a separate video, which would be like a short, but nevertheless, imperative code is code that is structured. Basically, the code explains how it's doing something. Declarative code says what it's doing. So this function name is declarative because what does it do? You can straight up just ask your code, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, I'm setting half width. And you're like, oh, okay. But the when move is imperative because it says how it's doing that. Oh, I'm setting half width by getting the current screen width, dividing it by 2, and then I change the width parameter of the current win title. So it explains how it's doing it. So that's the difference. Great. Why is it not a static class? Initially, I thought, oh, naturally, of course it's a static class. That makes sense. However, what threw me off is coord mode. You might, or even I might, accidentally have a different coord mode. Maybe if I'm like somehow messed up my threads or changed it for like some testing, whatever, it might be different. So it's very important to set the correct coord mode for the current thread. So essentially, once I start this hotkey, I need to make sure that the coord mode is the one that I expect until the end of that thread. So essentially, how do threads work? Quick explanation. There's a better explanation in one of my videos. So imagine your script is chilling. It's doing literally nothing. And there is no thread, essentially. It does nothing. It waits for you to do something or for something to do something and so on. And then you press H and it's like, ooh, oh hell yeah, like I get to do something. So it starts a thread. So it does everything that this means, this method call, and after that the thread is done. So it essentially creates a new instance of the class and calls a method. And once it actually finishes whatever it was doing with that method, then the thread is closed and the coord mode should be set back to normal, I'm pretty sure. So if we go to directives, this is my file where I set all of the directives that I use in my base script. Some of them I would straight up just recommend always having no matter what. Some of them are very useful, but it can be argued whether you need them. Some are potentially dangerous, but so far they were great for me. Some are unnecessary if you do things like me, and very important if you don't. This shambles will fucking complain about, but I stand by it. This is useful for me. Why? Because changing volume very fast. This entirely personal, and here we have coord mode mouse screen. So this is the global coord mode, which is going to be the default one essentially. And since this coord mode call isn't done in global space, so this is global space because we're not in a function or class, this is not global, so it will only be set for the thread. And once that thread finishes, it should go back to normal. I think. I could be wrong on that. It's literally in the docs, but I didn't read them since a long time ago, so you're probably safer off just reading them yourself to figure that out. Great. So, why did I make this a non-static? Because having to pass... Okay, well, win title, I guess I just made to make it easier, essentially. So I can somehow specify a win title if I wanted to specify a specific one. Wow, that's a lot of words stringed together, but this is not really the reason. The reason is coord mode, and also the fact that having to get the coordinates and positions every single time just felt incredibly annoying. Like, imagine putting essentially this, more or less, in every single one of these methods. That would be so annoying, which is why you might as well just do it in the constructor and then just use it everywhere that you need. And that's exactly what I did. That's why it's non-static. I didn't expect it to be so, but it makes a lot of sense. Now we have functions that move windows. One day I'll learn how to use these fucking complicated Vim motions. They're very cool, just hard to get used to. What if I like toggle, yeah, this screencast mode? Now you can see my struggle. VIE to look at the parameter. So by how much? Yeah, it moves it by changing either the X or the Y of the window. Yeah, so that's pretty simple. And the window we specified earlier. Then we have this, which changes the width and height of the usually current window. How does it do that? It changes the height or width of the current window. Once again, pretty simple. However, if you look at this code, like, I'm sure you can figure it out, especially if you have parameter hints, and you should, if you set up AutoHotkey how I did. And if you didn't, you can watch my video on it. But once again, it's much easier to just understand by reading text rather than reading code. Yeah. And then we do this, setting either half or full width or height. And that I already kind of explained. So the code is actually pretty simple, and I'm sure you could write this. Maybe not as a class, like using all this. Takes, I guess, some practice and knowledge, but you don't have to do it like that. I'm sure you could use Vim move, like you would figure it out. So that's not the difficult part. However, I still leave a link to like everything in the description, including this file. The difficult thing is figuring out how to make this like work as in terms of hotkeys. If the hotkeys for you are not nice enough, then you're not really gonna use them or like using them. But since I have Vim mode, I was able to make hotkeys that actually work. And let's remove that. I'm not gonna show off Vim anymore, I think. So yeah, since I'm already used to like moving my mouse with SDFG and moving my like as arrow keys with HJKL, well then moving my window with the same thing. Hold up. It's really funny that I say that and then fail immediately. Yeah, doing the same thing, like when I do HJKL, it makes sense for me that is going to move my window. And in the same like kind of way, it makes sense for it to change its like size, I guess. So it might not for you, and it's really like up to you to decide what works and what doesn't in your specific case. So this is just a suggestion. Oh, and by the way, to like explain how to use it, first you create an instance of the class and then call its method and provide provide how much in pixels. For that, I made an abstraction of mouse, which is like nothing special. It just holds a bunch of pixel values that are specifically tailored to me. And they are also used in the usual Vim mode. So, oh, you probably can't see very well, but essentially my cursor is jumping a lot because I'm pressing numbers. Well, that is done by this section. Sometimes, like you just saw this, like my cursor was popping up this window, which is annoying, at least for me, probably for you too. If it stayed like incredibly long, you would be like, come on, Axel, fucking remove it. Well, I can just turn on Vim mode, press 0, and here I am. And I do this like really often. for scrolling as well. So yeah, then I specify other stuff and so on. So essentially it's just a holder of different values that I then pass into the methods of window manager, but you could just specify your own. You don't even like have to have this mouse class. You can just hard code it. Maybe it's easier for you. It's not necessarily for me in terms of maintenance. So that's why I use this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can access all of this code publicly until I maybe delete it in the future. So at one point, I didn't leave links to any of my files because of an ideology. All of the things that I'm showing you on my channel are in active development, so they might be changed, renamed, moved, deleted, whatever. So if I leave a link to something and then it's broken, it's just kind of annoying, right? So I might as well just not leave a link at all. But then I understood that I'm fucking stupid, because if it's wrong, then even looking at this path or this path is not gonna help you. Like, I might as well leave a link to that file, because if the link is broken, that means the path is also broken. And like, you could like go to the repository and just look around, but I have so many folders, and let's not like forget 146 files that running through them would be incredibly annoying, especially considering how abstract my organization is. It kind of makes sense for me, but I do not expect it to make sense like actually. So yeah, now I leave links to files as well. If a link is broken, expect that the file is either moved, renamed, or deleted. And like, do not be afraid to just straight up make a comment saying, oh, this link is broken. I'll fix it if I just moved it or renamed it. If it's deleted, I'll say so. So if you enjoyed this video, press a like, tap some comments, maybe have a question or suggestion. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss my content, but most importantly, stay fresh, cheese bags, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!